With the 2024 NBA Finals in the books, I wanted to do a fun ranking video today, and I wanted to rank the last 15 NBA champions against each other dating back to the year 2010. And obviously, this is going to be tough. All of these teams were the best team in their respective season. So I'm not saying the team coming in at number 15 is a bad team. I just have to rank somebody at 15. We're going to take into account overall talent on the team, who they beat in the playoffs, how they were in the regular season. So yeah, this was extremely tough to do because obviously I have to put a team at number 15, and I know you're going to either agree or disagree with this ranking, so please in the comments let me know your top 5 championship teams since 2010 or what you disagree with my ranking. So like I said, some team has to be at number 15, right? And I may upset a fan base with this one. I'm going to go with the 2022 Warriors. Well, like I said, every team here was the best team in their respective season. I just had to have a team come in at number 15. I think a lot went right for the Warriors this season, but it was such a great story for Steph to get a ring and prove he can win a finals MVP in his career and win one without Kevin Durant. Klay was back fully healthy. Draymond was in full swing of things and anchored the best defense in the NBA. They got a locked-in Andrew Wiggins, a healthy Otto Porter, and a really good Jordan Poole. Steph Curry was fantastic this season. They beat a Denver Nuggets team without Jamal Murray in round number 1. They won that in 5 games. In round number 2, they beat a young, inexperienced Memphis Grizzlies team in 6 games. I thought at one point in the beginning of that series, it could go either way. And then they beat the Dallas Mavericks, who beat the Phoenix Suns for them in the conference finals, and beat the Boston Celtics in the NBA finals in 6 games. Like I said, somebody had to come in at number 15. They were a fantastic team, but just compared to the rest of the NBA champions since 2010, they had to come here in the last spot. And I know I said I was going to upset a fan base in the last ranking. I may do the same here. At number 14, we're going to go with the 2020 LA Lakers. Yeah, they were in a tier of teams that could have gone here. There was like 5 different spots, but I gave them the tiebreaker, not in their favor, because this was in the bubble. Who knows how this could have went if there were fans in these playoffs. The Lakers were the 11th best offensive team this season. They were the 4th best defensive team. They beat the Portland Trailblazers in 5 games in round number 1. They beat the Rockets in 5 games in round number 2. Beat the Nuggets in 5 games in round number 3. That Nuggets team came back down 3-1 against the LA Clippers in the Western Conference semifinals, and they beat the Miami Heat in 6 games to win a title in LA, and the first one with LeBron in that uniform. It was a great team. You had LeBron still at the peak of his career. You had Anthony Davis locked in, and great role players around them like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, Rajon Rondo, Avery Bradley, a lot of veterans that locked in the bubble to get the Lakers a ring, but unfortunately they're coming in at number 14. This felt weird putting this team at number 13, but there's just so many good championship teams since 2010. I'm gonna go with the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks here. A great team, do not get me wrong. This team was so good defensively and equally as good offensively as well. They were able to sweep the Miami Heat in round number 1, a team that was just coming off making it to the NBA Finals in the bubble. And in such an entertaining 7-game series, they beat the Brooklyn Nets in round number 2. Who knows how that series could have gone if KD had a shorter shoe size? Try saying that 10 times quickly. And then Atlanta upsetted Philadelphia in round number 2, so the Bucks played the Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals, won that series in 6 games, and then went up against the Phoenix Suns, who were pretty much the best team in the NBA that season in the NBA Finals, and they won that in 6 games. I am shocked this team hasn't been back to the Eastern Conference Finals since, but obviously every single year they've dealt with some type of injury. This was the last fully healthy Milwaukee Bucks season, and we got to see Giannis be the best player in the NBA. Like I said, there's been a lot of good championships 2010, and I didn't want to be too recency bias here, so I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics here in 2024 in at the number 12 spot. I mean, this Celtics team was by far the best team throughout the whole season. In the preseason, they were the favorites to win the NBA Finals. They finished as the 2nd best offensive team this season and the 5th best defense. They ended up going 64-18 throughout the regular season. They had 2 All-Stars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, but 5 players could have made the All-Star game. You have a elite 1 through 5 with the Jays, adding Derek White and Drew Holiday defensively, the unicorn and Kristaps Porzingis, and a solid bench that ended up going 16-3 in the playoffs. Just pure domination from the Boston Celtics in the most recent playoff run. I didn't want to be too recency bias here, but you can let me know in the comments. Are they too low? And coming in at number 11, just missing out on the top 10, we're going to go to the team that's the first one that could have been mentioned on this list, the 2010 champions, and that is going to be the 2010 LA Lakers. It was a completely different game of basketball back then, so you can let me know if they're too low on this ranking. I did think the 2009 team was better than the the 2010 team. You obviously had Lakers legend and Hall of Famer in Kobe Bryant. Pau Gasol was on this team. You got one of the few good Andrew Bynum seasons. They beat a very young OKC team in 6 games in round number 1 and then swept the Utah Jazz in round number 2. Won in 6 games against the Steve Nash Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals and then beat the Boston Celtics in 7 games in a very entertaining NBA Finals. Once again, this was one of the greatest teams of the 21st century, but when we match them up against the other teams here in the top 10, I don't think that they match up with either their playoff run or their overall talent. And to kickstart the top 10, we're going to go with the 2023 Denver Nuggets. I do believe that out of the 5 title winners in the 2020s, the Denver Nuggets have been the best team so far from 2023. They were the best team in the Western Conference that season. Their defense was sometimes hit or miss, so if you want to drop them some spots for that, I can't blame you. But they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games in round number 1. They knocked down the new KD Phoenix Suns team in round number 2 in 6 games. And then in round number 3, they swept the LA Lakers and then beat the Miami Heat in 5 games in the NBA Finals. They went 16-4 throughout this playoff run. Nikola Jokic cemented himself as the best player in the NBA, and they're going to kickstart the top 10. All right, now here's where we get to some of the best teams of all time for sure. So coming in at number 9, we got the 2015 Golden State Warriors, the first ring of their eventual dynasty. This team was the second best offensive team throughout the regular season. They were the best defensive team anchored by Draymond Green. They finished with a 67-15 record. They swept the AD-led New Orleans Pelicans in round number 1. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies, pretty much ending the grit and grind era in round number 2 in 6 games. They beat the James Harden-led Houston Rockets in 5 games in the Western Conference Finals and beat the LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals in 6 games. I have no idea how that NBA Finals would have went though with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving didn't get injured. So with that hypothetical, that's why I docked them a spot compared to the team. Coming in at number 8, because I was back and forth between those two. But Steph Curry won MVP. You had Klay Thompson emerging as a secondary star in this league. Draymond Green as one of the league's best defenders. Andre Iguodala, Harrison Barnes, Sean Livingston, Mo Spates. The list goes on with the veterans coming off the bench. But it's always that what if. What if Kyrie and Kevin Love didn't get injured? And coming in one spot ahead of them at number 8, I was going back and forth between this team and the 2015 Warriors. I'm going with the 2019 Toronto Raptors. I know this team also got kind of lucky with injuries. Kevin Durant was hurt in the NBA Finals and Klay Thompson got hurt. But I can't deny how good and deep this Toronto Raptors team was. They were the 5th best offensive team, 5th best defensive team. They were the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, beat the Orlando Magic in 5 games in round number 1, beat a very good Philadelphia 76ers team in round number 2 in 7 games, beat the Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games in the Eastern Conference Finals after falling down 2-0, and then obviously beat the Golden State Warriors in 6 games in the NBA Finals. This team was just so deep, but I also think they turned it up a notch defensively in the playoffs, even with OG Anunoby being injured throughout the whole playoff run. Kawhi Leonard playing like the best player on the planet. You got Marcus Gasol, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka, Danny Green, Norman Powell. This is a very good team, and they were a very tough team to rank because I don't think that they were going to win the NBA Finals if Kevin Durant never got injured. But hey, they won it. Shout out to them, and they're coming in at number 8. Here's where it just gets so tough to rank these teams because I was so shocked to put this team at number 7, and that's going to be the 2012 Miami Heat. This was a lockout season, so there were only 66 games played. They went 46-20. They were the 8th best offensive team, the 4th best defensive team, obviously led behind the big 3 of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. This is 1 year coming off losing in the NBA Finals in their first year together against the Dallas Mavericks, a team we'll get to later. They blew out the Knicks in round number 1 in 5 games, beat the Indiana Pacers in 6 games in round number 2. The Boston Celtics, like the last run of that KG Paul Pierce era, took them to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they beat a young but still really good OKC Thunder team in the NBA Finals in 5 games. Even after losing by double digits in game number 1, they ended up winning 4 straight. LeBron got the first ring of his career, so it is a special one. But I think they had a more impressive finals victory later, so that team's going to come a little bit higher. But it was just weird to rank like the big 3 Miami Heat this far down. And coming in one spot ahead of this team was the team they lost to the year prior, the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, coming in at number 6. Dirk lost in the NBA Finals in 2006, and a lot of people were saying he couldn't get it done. And then in 2011, the Dallas Mavericks had one of the greatest playoff runs of all time. They beat the Portland Trailblazers in 6 games in round number 1, beat the LA Lakers in 4 games. They swept them in round number 2, beat that young OKC Thunder team in the Western Conference Finals in 5 games, and then went up against the Miami Heat as underdogs and won the NBA Finals in 6 games. The only team ever to pretty much shut down LeBron James in a playoff series. They were a top 10 offensive team, a top 10 defensive team. You had your start in Dirk Nowitzki and such good veterans around him like Jason Terry, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, Sean Marion, and Caron Butler. And also got to give a shout out to Rick Carlisle, coaching one of the best best playoff runs ever. And coming in one spot ahead of them to kickstart the top 5 is going to be the 2013 Miami Heat. Yeah, I just think that this 2013 Miami Heat team had a better playoff run than the 2012 team. And Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh were starting to slow down a little bit by then, but LeBron James was still in the midst of his prime. They swept the Milwaukee Bucks in round number 1, then they beat the Chicago Bulls in 5 games in round number 2. One of the more exciting young teams at the time, the Indiana Pacers, led by Paul George, took them to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat blew them out in Game 7, and then in the NBA Finals, one of the best of the 21st century, the Miami Heat were down 3 games to 2 against the San Antonio Spurs. Ray Allen hits one of the more iconic shots in NBA history, and then the Miami Heat win Game 7 to get their second ring with this core. They were 66-16 throughout the regular season. They were a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, and in my opinion, better than the 2012 team. All right, coming in at number 4, we have the 2018 Golden State Warriors. There was definitely some rumblings as KD really liked being here in Golden State, and obviously Steph Curry was turning into more of a number 2. They weren't as good of a defensive team than some of the other Warriors years. They did beat a Kawhi Leonard-less San Antonio Spurs team in round number 1 in 4 games. They beat the AD-led Pelicans in round number 2 in 5 games, but they almost lost in round number 3 in the Western Conference Finals, which kind of docked them a couple spots compared to these other teams. They were down 3 games to 2 against the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul gets hurt, and then the Warriors rattle off 2 straight wins to advance to the NBA Finals once again, and then they swept the Cavs in the finals. Still a top 5 championship team since 2010, but it's not cracking the top 3. And coming in at number 3, maybe not as talented as some of these other teams, but man, this is one of the greatest playoff runs ever, 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. It's funny because if the Warriors won these finals, they would have been clear number 1. They went 73-9 in the regular season, but that just makes this finals win more impressive for the Cavs, and they came back down 3 games to 1. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference. They swept the Pistons in round number 1, the Hawks in round number 2. Then they went on to go beat the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games, and then they were down 3 games to 1 against the Golden State Warriors and had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comeback in NBA Finals history to win in 7 games, and LeBron finally brought a ring to Cleveland. It's a special one. Let me know if I have them too high or too low on this list. And coming in at number 2, in my opinion, the most underrated team that nobody talks about as much as they should, the 2014 San Antonio Spurs. They were the 7th best offense in the regular season, the 3rd best defense. They finished with a 62-20 record. They went on to beat a still very good Dallas Mavericks team with Dirk Nowitzki in round number 1 in 7 games. They beat the Portland Trailblazers in 5 games in round number 2, the OKC Thunder in 6 games in round number 3, and then got a rematch with the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals, and it wasn't even close. They won in 5 games. They won game 1 by 15, game 3 by 19, game 4 by 21, and then game 5 by 17. Between Tony Parker, Tim Duncan still playing at such a high level, Manu Ginobili as well, Kawhi Leonard emerging as a star in this league and winning Finals MVP. This team definitely isn't as flashy as some of the other teams we have mentioned today, but in my opinion, they can't go outside the top 3. Coming in at number 2. But coming in at number 1, it's the 2017 Golden State Warriors. This team was coming off a 73-9 regular season in 2016 and were up 3 games to 1 in the NBA Finals, and they added the 2nd best player in the NBA in free agency in Kevin Durant. They went on to be the best offensive team in the league, the 2nd best defensive team, having the best record at 67-15. And no initial first year jitters like LeBron in Miami in 2011. They got it done. They had one of the greatest playoff runs of all time of just pure domination, going 16-1. They swept the Western Conference, swept the Trailblazers in round number 1, swept the Jazz in round number 2, swept the San Antonio Spurs in round number 3, but do have to mention that Kawhi Leonard did get injured in game number 1, and they lost 1 game in the NBA Finals. Kind of how the Boston Celtics went about the Dallas Mavericks this year, going up 3 games to 0, losing game 4 on the road in a blowout fashion, but then coming back home for game number 5 to win the NBA title on your home floor. And in my opinion, the 2017 Warriors are the best championship team since 2010. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, I would appreciate it if you drop in a thumbs up. And like I said, let me know in the comments below. I know this is going to be a list you're going to agree with 100%, especially if you're a fan of one of these teams that I rank pretty low. But please let me know how you would have ranked your top 5 or what you disagree with my list. We got the draft right around the corner, so make sure you are subscribed. Going to be live streaming on Wednesday night, the first round of the NBA draft. Might even live stream round 2 as well on Thursday, so make sure you have post notifications on as well. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.